Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to another episode of Endurance Chat. My name is Michael Zalavari, and joining me today is Kris Washer 97. Kris, good afternoon, good morning for you.
Yeah, my weird sleeping schedule actually worked out for once this time. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, local time here in the wonderful Western Michigan, yeah, it's race day for WEC Spa as we're recording this. It's gonna be, as we saw already this weekend, which we'll touch on earlier. It's gonna be an exciting one, but we got some things we need to clean up first.
We got a lot to catch up on. It's crazy what happens when you have 4 endurance racing events in 3 weeks, isn't it? It's just everything.
Exactly.
It's just so good. It has been a glut of motor racing in this April month. So we have on your agenda WEC Portimao wrap, an ELMS Barcelona wrap, talking about the IMSA competition race in Long Beach, the 100-minute race supporting the IndyCar there, and of course we're going to discuss what happened yesterday in qualifying for the Spa-Francorchamps 6 hours, which will be the last hit out before Le Mans. Because it's already that time of year. We're talking about Le Mans. It's kind of nuts. So we've got plenty to get through. We're going to go as hard and fast as we can because we don't have long before the Spa race starts. And this needs to get uploaded. So, Kris, straight into it. WEC Portimao. What a race. What a race it was in all parts of the field.
It was absolutely a fantastic race. I know people were kind of salty that Toyota, during the first couple laps, it seemed like the Ferraris were keeping up their pace with them. Then the Toyota kind of screamed off into the distance. We'll talk about what happened to the, I believe, the 7 Toyota later. But yeah, in all of the classes, especially the hypercar midfield, it was just exceptional racing. I don't think there was, really any moments of dullness. It seems like any chance that if anything subsided, a battle somewhere else just immediately picked up. So this was best race of the season so far. That's a very, we got Spa coming up, so that'll probably, who knows how long that spot will last. But yeah, very exciting race. I think this definitely showed a very great promise in the season this year.
Absolutely, and we had Ferrari battling Toyota, we had Ferrari battling Porsche, we had Cadillac battling Porsche, we had Porsche battling Ferrari, we had Glickenhaus battling Peugeot and Glickenhaus battling Vanwall for a while. There was action aplenty in the midfield of hypercar, and something that really struck out to me was the hypercar reliability. We saw for the first time all of the hypercars run into issues. So not every single one, but each team had something go wrong with their cars. So let's nut out into this straight away. Toyota, their problem with the number 7 was they had a dreaded FIA mandated a torque sensor on one corner of the car fail, which basically meant that the FIA wasn't reading data from their sensor, which is part of the regulations of the series, and so as a result, they had to bring that car in. What are your thoughts on that whole sequence of events?
Well, rules are rules. I know some people are kind of peeved that even though, mechanically the car was fine, the car was still able to prove pace. It was fine. It was just an FIA mandated thing that had no relation, or what should I say, detriment to the performance of the car that made them go in the box. It wasn't just a quick fix too. I think they had to tear out the entire rear end.
Yeah, they put a new corner on the car.
Yeah, they had to go pretty deep, so it wasn't just a quick fix. But yeah, I know. Rules are rules. It added, I'd say, a little bit more spice to the race than maybe it would have if it haven't had to happen. I do think they did put up a fix to that though, so that way stuff like that doesn't happen again. I think they put backup sensors or something along the lines of that.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, there was a solution put in place, so in theory, this should never happen again.
Well, it's not the first time that Toyota have dealt with an FIA part failing and dropping them out of the race. I think the more tragic of Toyota's Le Mans stories was the 2014 race where they were leading and in a very good position and had an FIA wiring loom fail on and melt on, I think it was Nakajima's car, which stranded them at an arch. They couldn't get the car back, and that was it. They were done, and that was in the middle of the night, and they were in the box seat to win that race as well. So it's not the first time. And it's not the first time this year that we've had official regulated parts fail. I mean, think about the Bathurst 12 hour with the data modem on the Group M racing car.
Right, and even this year in the WEC, maybe not FIA mandated, but there's a TV camera mishap that got I can't remember which United it was, but at Sebring, it took one of the Uniteds out of the race. So
yes,
this is definitely not new. It has happened before. It's just a shame but it's a shame when it does happen.
Yeah, it's when you've got reliability problems turned to maximum on your iRacing or whatever. So that was Toyota's trouble. We also saw, because of the hot conditions, the tire wear, and the heavy braking of Portimao, we saw 2 brake failures. The first and the more dramatic one was the brake failure for the Floyd Van Rol Racing number 4 Van der Wel 680 with, I believe it was Jacques Villeneuve at the wheel through turn, I think 10 or 11, where the car just like the brake just burst into flames, did not retard the car at all, and it sent it backwards into the gravel trap. And then as well, we saw a failure for the front right brake on the Ferrari as well, the Ferrari 499P, I think the 51 Ferrari. So not ideal for either of those cars. Do you think that's a worry for those 2 cars?
I'll have to wait and see. I mean, Sebring was also, if I remember correctly, pretty hot, and I don't remember seeing any brake issues of the sort. I mean, Van Wall ran with an asterisk, ran without too much of a problem with brakes. Same with, I don't believe Ferrari had any issues with them as well. So I would want to wait and see if this turns out if this is a more than a one-time thing. It could have just been, it was like really, really hot. Spa, we definitely won't see the same controlled conditions, so we're not gonna, I don't wager we're gonna see the same problems. Le Mans, middle of June, potentially. I don't think it'll get as hot, as deep south Portugal.
Yeah.
So I think this might just be a one-off thing.
Yeah, well, you think about Portimao as a track as well. It is a track that has a lot of heavy braking, high intensity braking, very, very close together. There's not really a chance, like, for example, at Spa, where you've got the Kemmel Straight, and then you've got the run from No Name into Pool, and then you've got the run down through Blanchimont, where you've got time for the brakes to really cool back down. You're really hammering that brake pedal all the time. So it might just be, as you said, a one-off because of the conditions of this specific circuit. In saying that, though, those brake failures are terrifying. Like, it was so lucky that neither of them happened at turn 1, because can you imagine if they had a brake failure at turn 1?
That's terrifying, and especially when you give the context of what happened on Friday, where a practice session for the support race of Porsche Sprint Challenge Iberica, a car had I presume brake failure. I think that was the main consensus reached online, where there's like video of it. It's not clear video from an amateur view of things, but yeah, the car just went so fast into the gravel trap. It most likely caught air, and it actually went into the stands. So imagine that, but with a much faster car
and lighter
much
as
heavier. Well. Is it lighter?
I think, well, compared to a Carrera Cup car, I think an LMH is, 900 kilos? And a Carrera Cup car would probably be like 1.1 ton?
Oh, well.
Maybe.
Even then, in the circumstances, I don't think that's not going to really matter too much when, the end result is potentially car in the stands.
Yeah.
At that point, the weight doesn't matter. But, so that's a whole discussion in itself, which we could possibly have about, the safety of turn 1 or whatever. But the discussion was about with the brake failure that we had. The Vandal one was especially terrifying because you saw the black smoke just billow out of the front. And luckily there was lots and lots of a runoff there where in the end where he made that impact, it wasn't, too hard. But yeah, very terrifying stuff.
Yeah, so no result for Van Wall out of that one. The number 51 did manage to limp its way home 3 laps down, from the lead and finish in 6th place. The Toyota, by the way, they won the race and finished 9th, so the last of the hypercars. And then we had the little bit of the mid-pack, the Porsche and the... So what was Porsche's issue with the second of the 963s? They dropped... they were the last classified finisher with the number 5 car. I can't remember off the top of my head what the issue was.
I can't remember either. I know they had to go into the garage. But yeah, Penske, and if going forward a little bit, they have been having a little bit of problems on the Friday or Thursday at Spa as well. So some grumblings from Portugal coming towards Spa potentially.
And the Peugeots, well, one of the Peugeots didn't even make it out onto the grid. They were changing a steering rack because of a power steering pump failure, and didn't make the car out into the grid, so they immediately started the lap down. But otherwise, they ran mostly clean. I think this is probably Peugeot's best race so far.
It was, and but I can't remember what exactly they were changing, but the car did make it for a pit lane start, and both them I don't remember anything where I could point to oh, Peugeot again.
Yeah.
They were not fast, they were not fast for their counterparts, but their goal was reached. They reached a end of the race without any reliability problems.
And no issue with the new gearbox either.
Exactly. And when you had others having problems Van Wall, Porsche,
Ferrari.
And when they stood out against the heat, according to all these other teams, that's very, very good signs of improvement. Hopefully, Spa can be even more signs of improvement. We'll talk about the qualifying results later on, but we'll have to wait and see if the results if they get compounded.
Yeah. So just an update, the Porsche, both cars actually had power steering issues. The number 6 had one, had one that just was kind of consistent, but the other one had to come into the garage and fix it because it was breaking down the electronics, which was a pain. And then finally, Cadillac finished 4th in that race. They were looking very, very strong in the early part of the race, but a moment for Richard Westbrook coming into the pits basically pulled their strategy apart, turned it on its head. He was coming into the pits behind one of the Peugeots, locked up all 4 wheels, put a massive flat spot on all of them, and then they didn't change the tires in the pit stop. Now, I don't know about you, Chris, but I wouldn't want to be on 4 flat spotted tires when I'm jumping into a car that's doing a double stint. That's a big miss.
Yeah, like you said, their game plan was to probably double stint those tires, maybe, but. They were, I think they might have been behind a Peugeot, and they had Westy had to pump on the brakes and lock up those tires real hard. And they got out there without changing the tires, and you can hear the radio from the Cadillac team these tires aren't going to make it to the end, so they had to uproot their strategy a little bit. But still, 4th from that is a really impressive result. They showed some real pace that weekend.
So quickly, Chris, before we talk about the other classes, what do you reckon the hypercar balance of power, the hypercar hierarchy is at the moment? So clearly, Toyota first, right? And then what next?
I still peg Ferrari a second.
Yeah.
Then after that, I would say it's Cadillac, Porsche, Peugeot, Glickenhaus, Van Wall.
Okay. Cool. So, do you reckon with Cadillac having the additional car coming for Le Mans that they might be pushing for a podium place or in the top 5?
Oh, absolutely. I think they not trying to put the cart before the horse here. Talking about putting Spa results in the forefront here. It's definitely a possibility. I think Cadillac is as of now it looks like the better of the LMDHs.
Okay.
At least in WEC, and I think it's a very definite possibility that Cadillac will challenge for at least the podium.
Ooh. Exciting times. Let's talk about LMP2 now. And LMP2, for me, in my rewatch, kind of got lost a little bit in the wash. It was very hard to keep track of where everything was at the mid part of the race. But all of the cars in LMP2, except for the number 34 Inter-Europol competition car and the number 35 Alpine, and the Vector Sport car that was many, many laps down, finished on the same lap. So that's, let me count this out here. That's 8 cars on the same lap, within a few seconds of each other. That's pretty impressive. And I know that this is a spec series and they're all running Oracle or whatever. Still, with all the different quality of drivers in the cars, that's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, even I did get lost in the sauce, with trying to keep track of the strategies and whatnot. But yeah, towards the end of the race, we had a little bit of hype. I believe the 63 was leading, which is the Dorian pin car. But then as the pit stops played out, it led to I can't remember which United it was, but it was the Guido van der Garde car.
The 23, yes.
And that ended up taking the victory there, which I believe Guido was a last minute call up for that team.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It was because one of the drivers was racing in the IMSA race. It was
Felipe Albuquerque?
Yes, that would be right. He was driving the GTP for the Acura A7 ARX6. So Guido got a call up and did pretty well in the end. And if you haven't watched the WC Full Access race from Portimao, I do recommend it specifically for shining a bit of light on LMP2 because it really showed how tense the end of the LMP2 race was. Because while it was United Autosports versus United Autosports, Oliver Jarvis had no radio communication in that car at all through that entire stint. And they were fuel saving. They were running to a fuel number. So every single lap, Jarvis was getting a fuel number over the side of the wall on the pit board and having to run his lap times to that number with absolutely no clue what else was going on. So the end of the race, it was 0.6 of a second between the two United Autosports cars, but he had no idea what was going on. So fair play to Jarvis. That's an incredible result after doing that with no communication for a stint.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, I remember it's sort of the lines where I think it was NASCAR at Pocono where Ryan Blaney was racing with the Wood brothers and they lost radio communication halfway through the race. And just think of all the things that can go wrong with that radio communication. You pit at the wrong time, mistakes, there's no communication at all. And Ryan Blaney ended up winning that race. So that's what reminded me of was when that 23 took the checkered.
It was incredible. So definitely check out WC Full Access to get a bit of a deeper look at that. So it was the two United Autosports cars from Team WRT who finished in third place with Andrade, Kubica, and Delatraz in that car. We'll skip down to GT because I think the ACO have made one of the best decisions with GTEM, and that is the bronze qualifying, because it has turned what is very often a bit of a lackluster, pro run, who really cares qualifying session into a great exhibition of the best of the bronze drivers taking it on. And what we've gotten out of it is some incredible qualifying sessions and probably the most wholesome rivalry in the WEC. You must be very happy with how Ben Keating's been doing in the Corvette this season, Kris.
Oh, absolutely, and it really I don't want to think about it towards the end of the year because it'll be his last season, at least in GT cars, because he expressed he's expressed non-interest in racing GT3s. He doesn't like the ABS attached to them at all. So looks like LMP2 is from him from here on out. But yeah, very wholesome rivalry, like you said. It's the Bovey versus Keating showdown every single qualifying session, and when they go to the race, it's just full on clean racing. I don't remember. Off the top of my head, I don't remember any dumb moves or stupid moments. Everyone seems to have their head on a swivel, and the racing has been absolutely fantastic. Like we saw at the very end between what was it, Rivera and
Nicky Katzberg.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, we were talking about the LMP2 battle going down to less than a second at the end. The GTE battle at the end of the race, 0.26 of a second, quarter of a second, and it was Katzberg holding on for dear life against Rivera, and that was quite an important result for Katzberg in that one, because I think that's Corvette's racing. Did they win in Sebring as well?
They did win in Sebring. They're 2 for 2 this year.
So keeping up a good record. A very interesting podium in a GTE AM because we had 4 women on a GTE AM podium, on a WEC podium, with the Iron Dames coming in third with Bovi Gatting and Rahel Frey, and of course the number 83 AF Corsa car that finished second, Rivera sharing that car with Lilo Wadu and Luis Perez Compagnac. So wonderful to see women getting opportunities in sports cars and actually living up to those opportunities as well. It is brilliant to see such representation on the podium.
Yeah, exactly. It really speaks volumes that even in LMP2, which was, I mean, let's be honest, LMP2 was like one of the most competitive classes in the World Endurance Championship, still is, and she's still getting up on the podium, and that just shows the amount of talent, how deeply rooted their skills are regarding sports car endurance racing.
And as well, I think it shows the quality of the opportunities that you can have in sports car racing, which I don't think exists in many other series outside of that. Like you think of F2 and F3, you really need to be in the right sort of car to have a proper chance. Even in supercars, when we had Simona Di Silvestro running a few seasons in the Nissan, it wasn't really a car that was in the challenge for victories, regardless of Simona's skill in the car. So it's good to see that in sports cars you can have these opportunities and do well. So yeah, wonderful to see in GTM. The bronze qualifying session, I kind of touched on that at the start and saying that I thought it was a wonderful idea. What do you think? Do you enjoy the bronze qualifying sessions?
I think it's excellent. If we want to see pros qualify, we already have Hypercar in LMP2. So I think this is excellent. It really puts in the emphasis of the AM driver being involved in the race, like it should for an AM class. Another acceptable alternative would be like a what was it, a combined like lap for each. But if we're gonna be honest here, if the WC is it's a FIA World Championship, they're trying to attain new viewers. So that's probably way too complicated and only for us sports car nerds to be happy about.
I really like the combined quality. I
do too.
Yeah.
But for the people just tuning in, the people who are very new, it's probably not the best situation. It just leads to more confusion, I would say. But I think the bronze qualifying session is very, very good. I do enjoy the sessions a lot.
Yeah, and the thing that I found most is that it enables enables the bronze drivers to show a bit more of their personality, which I really like. And they got great personalities.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Any last comments on the WC round at Portimao before we move on?
I don't think so. Every hypercar was apart from the Toyota at the front. Hypercar was fun to watch. LMP2 when it was shown, there was always some sort of form of battle, and obviously we had the GTEM battle for the lead. Very good race. But we have something that there was a race that happened the night before Portimao that we need to discuss, I think.
Yes, IMSA competition at Long Beach, the 100-minute race supporting the IndyCar race at Long Beach, and that was quite something. Quite something. Very competitive at the front. We had the traditional GTM bust up in the hairpin, but the last stint of the race, tremendously energized by Ricky Taylor in the GTP Acura, and it was all going so well until it wasn't. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, just to go reverse a little bit. I remember it was like 10 minutes after the green flag fell. I believe we had a safety car in the first couple of minutes there. And the 31 Action Express car pitted, and everyone's like, why are they pitting? Well, I guess they had the minimum drive time was already over. Because if you didn't know, for IMSA, at least in GTP, there's very, very little minimum drive time because they're all pros.
5 minutes.
They're all pros. Like theoretically, there shouldn't be any minimum because they're all good enough on their own that it doesn't really matter. Anyway. discussion of that aside,
Mm.
they had a weird pit strategy that everyone was kind of confuddled about that had some intrigue towards the rest of the race. And then towards the middle of the race, we saw the 10 going back, and all of a sudden we saw the 10 just on a massive charge, which led all of us to, I don't think the cameras caught it, but led all of us to believe that they put on four fresh new tires. And then towards, what was it, like what, 3-4 minutes left to go, they made a mad dash on the inside of turn one, I believe against, was it the six?
Yeah, it was
And
Jaminet in the car versus Ricky Taylor.
yeah, and Ricky Taylor basically went to the inside, very, very deep lunge. The car couldn't get turned in time and went straight on into the turn one tire barrier. Caution was called, and that ended the race. But wow, the sequence before that, that was that was quite entertaining. I mean, you had the 10 moving up the field. I mean, you had the excitement of Porsche winning their first top class prototype race since WEC. It was just for 100 minutes. That was a very good,
Very good
investment of my time.
Yeah,
very good investment of my time.
It was quite a charge from Ricky Taylor, and that really energized the second half of the race. Like, he came out of the pits behind Philipp Eng and Augusto Farfus in the fourth place in the end BMW. So he had to pass two BMWs and two Porsches to win the race, and he very nearly almost did it. I think it was just as he dived in, the rears just locked up a little bit, and that sent him wide, and that was all she wrote. But you can't fault him for trying, not even a little bit.
Exactly. And one thing I want to point out, I vividly remember is like within the last 30 minutes of the race, when John Hindhaugh was talking about a Discord group, he was talking about us.
It was us. We've finally been accepted by Radio Le Mans. We are now legitimate, and they don't hate us anymore. It's wonderful. Not that they ever hated us. It's just we've been legitimized.
On all platforms now.
Yeah, on all platforms. What about the GTD race? Now, I'll be honest. For me, GTD just got lost. There was so much focus in the broadcast on the GTP, deservedly so, because of what Taylor was doing and how the front battle was playing out. But I don't remember seeing any pass in GTD. I remember seeing a 5-car train at one point before the pit stops, and that was it.
Yeah, GTD definitely got lost in the sauce there. I can't even remember who won the race, if I'm going to be honest with you. I know both classes were there at Long Beach. I believe it might have been, off the top of my head, okay, it was Lexus who won GTD Pro, and then it was a Lexus sweep. GTD Pro and GTD were both won by the Vassar Sullivan crew.
Ooh, according to the results, the race official results, it was the Paul Miller Racing car that won in GTD. Brian Sellers and Madison Snow.
I had the starting grid pulled up.
Bad luck.
Okay. Yeah, that happens. Yep. Yeah, okay. That's Paul Miller Racing. There you go. That makes a lot more sense. I believe this is 2 years in a row they've won at Long Beach. Because if I remember correctly, Paul Miller Racing had to wait on a new M4 because they didn't do Daytona last year, and then their very, very first race, or at least the second race, because I can't remember if they did Sebring or not, they ended up winning. So 2 years in a row for the Paul Miller team.
Nice.
And then Lexus did win GTD Pro.
Yeah.
So I got that one right.
You got that one right. Yeah, you're doing so well for so long.
I was. I do remember there was like one pass. I think it might have been with Corvette and Pfaff that they caught. But other than that, yeah, GTD Pro and GTD kind of just got lost in the mix there.
Yeah, and it was a bit of a shame because, you have such large grids that are all very competitive, but I guess Long Beach is a bit difficult to cover in that respect. We also had two cars not take the start, the AO Racing and the Racers Edge Motorsports, Porsche and Acura respectively. One of them was the dyno car, which I heard got crashed out in qualifying.
Yeah, so the 93 Racers Edge Motorsports car was heavily got into the wall on that last straight before you get into that section of corners for the hairpin.
Yeah.
But then as they were like kind of panning out, showing that car in the wall, all of a sudden we see the AO Racing car just going in at, not massive speed, but definitely kind of more speed than you would like in a yellow area. and just went, full into the wall on a very bad angle. I believe they hit the inside wall first, and that led them to come at that wall at that angle. But yeah, that basically led to Rexy, which was the AO Racing Porsche, and then that Racer's Edge Motorsport Acura being down for the count in regards to come race time Saturday.
Yeah, and that was Phil Hyatt. Phil Hyatt, is that his name? PJ Hyatt, who also had an incident at Spa, which we'll talk about, which is not great for him. Not a great run. Now, Kris, I wanted to ask you, Long Beach for IMSA, of course, it is running as a support category to the IndyCar. It gets a 100-minute race on the Saturday. It's obviously quite a big field to try and fit around a 2-mile course. So they cut out the LMP2 cars and the LMP3 cars. Even still, 28 cars, the 10 GTPs. It's what do you make of it? Is Long Beach suited for IMSA competition? Why is it there?
I mean, history. I mean, it's been there since at least the early 2000s, with the Grand Am and then the American Le Mans Series kind of alternating years a little bit there. And even then, like you said, what was it, 28?
Yeah, 28 on the entry list.
IndyCar has a similar grid. If it's not 28, it's maybe a couple cars less. So I don't think it's not a grid issue. I don't think. I think the grid we have is perfectly fine. Because it's not car after car feels all bunched up. People are causing accidents left and right. So I personally think that the stuff we have right now, I think we're in a good spot. And plus, having it be a support race for Long Beach, I know out of non-Americans hate the TV talk. I understand it, but you gotta understand that IndyCar and IMSA are both covered by NBC, so this lessens any issues of, this basically makes it easier for everybody, have at least everyone in the same place for at least one weekend of the year. And also, what else are you gonna fill that Saturday with?
I mean, there'll be other sport categories, but yeah.
And yeah, because we had main IMSA and Porsche Career Cup that weekend. Then I think we had Stadium Super Trucks, and then we had a historic Formula One car, either races or demos. So good TV partners in A or B history. C, I don't see how or what else you would replace that spot with.
Yeah, that's all good things. I wonder for the teams in GTD more so than GTP, the worth of running a 100-minute race, because normally the races are 2 hours 40 minutes, which actually makes it feels like a bit more of an enduro. But one stint, you're basically getting one stint each in a 2-driver lineup. So I don't know. It seems very short for me. But there, as you said, there's a lot of benefits, and thank God they've cleaned their act up, because I remember a few years ago it was a joke. It may have even been back when we had LMPC running at Long Beach as well, because you'd have a 1 hour 40-minute race and you'd spend 1 hour 30 minutes under caution because of accidents. So at least they fixed that.
And another case, their next round, it's at Laguna Seca. So that way, you mentioned the comment of, well, what's the purpose of at least the next round they'll still be in the West Coast, so that they're not making that trip for 100 minutes then going back on the East Coast.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially after spending 2 races in Florida.
Right.
Any last comments on Long Beach before we jump over the ditch once again?
No, IMSA was great at Long Beach. Next round is at Laguna Seca, May 14th. I think that's the date. It's on that Sunday of that weekend. Mazda MX-5 Cup that weekend, so that's going to be a must-watch. But yeah, I believe it's everything but LMP3 is running there. So it should be a fantastic weekend once again. And that'll be basically that'll be the last prototype race before Le Mans.
Really? Yeah, you'd be right. You would be right. Because there's no ELMS race at Imola now, which means that there's no second round before Le Mans. Hot damn.
Yeah.
Speaking of European Le Mans Series, they had their opening round last weekend as well. It was a glutton of racing the last few weeks. So, 4 hours of Barcelona. Barcelona, not really the most enthralling track, and I will say, for once in my life, I kind of got bored in the middle of a European Le Mans Series race. I know, but there can't be amazing races through the whole race every single time. There's some occasions where it might just be a bit slow in the middle, but it ended up being a very good race in the last hour. Very enthralling race in the last hour with, Kris, a Pro-Am overall victory. Who needs Pro and Pro-Am? Nah, fam. Racing Team Turkey's just going to win overall. Screw your aqua light boxes.
Yeah, Eduardo Freitas decided to sprinkle a little dust on the race and make it more entertaining. Because what led to it was Racing Team Turkey was actually quite hand in hand the class of the field. I mean, they were just passing cars left and right before their pit stops and keeping those positions. And then, toward, I believe, after their final pit stop, they got pinged for something going on with their cheese wedge, their legality panel, or it was some sort of debris flapping on their car.
They had to change the rear deck, yeah.
Yep. So then they had to come in, and I can't remember was it the Algarve Pro that they were fighting with?
Duquesne was who they were fighting with. Yeah.
That's right, the 30 with Neil Jani, I believe, closing up duties for that team.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they lost the lead to Duquesne, and then they just went on absolute tear after they went in for their penalty. Like, people thought, oh, this is going to ruin the race for them. Nope, psych. It was insane how the pace was. I can't even remember who was.
It was Delatraz. It was Louis Delatraz. He was right. A menace. He just was firing in laps. It was just impossible.
Yeah, because you had Sally Ulick, who was a great driver on its own. He was passing pro cars. Then you got Charlie Eastwood in the middle of that stint. He was getting past cars, and then, like you said, Delatraz closing things up. Yeah, that race was definitely helped by a race control decision, but still, the end result of what we got, a Pro-Am winning overall, which was fantastic. Duquesne still keeps pro honors, well, consolation prize.
Which
yeah, like you said,
which is also like for pro, it's actually they still get 25 points for the win as well, just as an aside. But anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, and like you said, it like during the middle, it did kind of get stale. Like GTE had some, like I remember JMW were kind of, and Kessel were kind of going at it, but other than that, it did kind of, maybe LMP3 had something going on there as well, but like every ELMS race traditions, once they get the first pit stop for LMP3, it's just a hard track, that race. And luckily we had that,
what a finish.
Increased activity. Yeah, luckily we had that finish. But yeah, Barcelona, even with the chicane taken out, I guess what wasn't exactly the great. If you haven't watched the race, I think me and Flood would probably agree that the 52-minute highlights would be enough.
I'd say watch the first lap, then watch the last hour and 20 minutes, so the last 80 minutes. I reckon that would be the way to do it. Because the last hour and a half was just unbelievable. Yeah.
Okay.
Kris, a little quiz question for you.
Ooh.
Sally Yolok is now one of 3 bronze drivers to win an LMP2 race overall. Who are the other 2?
Oh, great. For LMP2 race overall, eh?
Bronze drivers.
They have to be bronze. Let's take a look here. Oh god, my mind's not as sharp as it used to be. I'm gonna need some hints. Give me some hints.
So one of them was racing in the Barcelona race.
One of them was racing in the Let's see. Has to be bronze.
And the one that was racing in the Barcelona race won a European Le Mans Series race. The other one won a WEC race.
Okay.
I'm surprised. You're struggling with this.
Francois Perodo?
Nope.
Okay. One more final hint.
One more final hint. I can't give it away. One of them's a meme, the other one's raced in LMP1.
Oh, one of them's a meme. Is it Memo Rojas?
No! Ah, no!
What? Oh, hold on.
So, I'm going to put you out of your misery. I'm sorry, Kris. I thought you were going to get it. I thought you were going to smash it out. So one of them's Heinrich Hedman. I believe he won off the back of Ben Hanley and Nicolas Lapierre. I think it was the 2015 Portuguese round, but it wasn't at Algarve. Estoril.
Oh, Estoril.
Yeah. And then the other one was, very famously, Fuji Racing Team Netherlands Fritz van Aert.
Oh, I can't believe... Oh.
Kris, I'm kind of disappointed in you. I gotta be real.
I probably would have not guessed that.
Really? Mate. Nah.
Anything like early ELMS like those days, my mind's fried.
Yeah, that's fair. But Racing Team Netherlands? Fritz van Aert, come on! Oh, that's fine. It's fine.
He's a criminal now, so.
Yeah, he is too. Let's just completely gloss over that. Alleged, yeah. You said LMP3 was really hard to keep track of. I felt that as well, but Cool Racing ended up taking the win because of a penalty to the racing spirit of Le Mans machine that crossed the line first. They got a post-race drive-through penalty for some reason. I think a pit stop infringement.
Something along those lines, yeah. Like, I know racing spirit of Le Mans was kind of going up through the field. They had great pace. If you guys don't know where they came from, because this is their first year in ELMS, they raced in Michelin Le Mans Cup last year.
Cool.
Yes, they also raced GT4 cars with Astons. So that's where they came from. But yeah, even then with the penalty, I think they have a result they could be proud of. They showed that they have some great pace, some great drivers behind that car. Next round is
after Le Mans.
3 months from now. Yeah, 3 months from now at Paul Ricard. So and I believe Racing Spirit of Le Mans might have won there last year in Michelin Le Mans Cup. So they got some things to prove.
Cool. So to clarify, they picked up a penalty because they completed one of their compulsory timed pit stops under full course yellow. So in LMP3, each car must do 2 pit stops of 105 seconds, which is like, they work the strategy around that, which means that they get 1 free pit stop, but they did one of their pit stops, their timed pit stops under full course yellow, which is against the regulations. So they copped a 105 second penalty, which, dropped them from first in class to third in class, which, like, it's still a podium. Like, I wouldn't be mad about that. It's a shame, but it's still a podium.
That's still a very good result this season that they can easily work from.
Duquesne Racing, we talked about racing in Turkey and Duquesne. AF Corsa picked up third position, another LMP2 Pro AM car. And in fact, Cool Racing, the number 37 LMP2 AM car, finished 4th. So you had 3 LMP2 AM cars rather in the top 4, which is kind of exciting. GTE, Proton Competition took the win. Ryan Hardwick, Zachary Robichon, and Andrea Picariello, ahead of Formula Racing and J&W Motorsport. Notably though, one of the cars that we expected to be in that mix, for, GTE, Proton Competition car, and you could argue as well the TF Sport car and the GMB Motorsport car, taken out on the first lap in a collision with an LMP3 car, the WTM by Rinaldi Racing car, the only Duquesne in the field. What did you make of that incident, Kris? The first lap incident.
Yeah, it was really a lot to keep track of because, I immediately when you said that, like for some reason my brain kept, because Michelin Le Mans Cup had a first lap incident as well that was chaotic. But it was a shame. Because you never want to see that, especially because the safety car I believe was pretty long in the beginning of the race. It's just don't want to see that happening, don't you?
Yeah, and it must be difficult for the GT cars to come across a prototype that's spun in the middle of the track like that, because, especially in the middle of turn 3, because you're already on the peak load, cold tyres, because you've not got tyre warmers anymore. You're coming across a car and you're at peak load in the middle of turn 3, and you don't really have anywhere to go. Like, I think Christian Reed, he was basically, like, had to turn out of the corner and still got collected and, like, launched his rear end into the air. So it's one of those difficult ones. It must suck to be in that position. Especially when there's a spin further up the field. I do want to give a shout out though to Proton competition, the number 93, Michael Fassbender. He's probably his best race so far. Unfortunate that that car got turned around by an LMP3 car as well. But Fassbender, he's come a long way since he first started.
Yeah, I can't remember how long it's been. This was third, fourth year now.
I think it's his third season in ELMS.
Yeah, last year he showed some improvements. He still got, hopefully, I think this will be great for people all around, because people know the Fassbender name. He's been in some high-profile movies. Like, it's kind of like the Patrick Dempsey thing where, like, like, hey, if I have friends or family watching something and neither one of them turns up in a show or movie, I'm like, hey, he races sports cars? and the fact that if they do, if the results are good for them, that just, makes it better overall, because then they can see, oh, he's actually good. Instead of like, oh, he does this and he's, crashes or, flocking around the back of the back.
Yeah. I actually had a girlfriend back when Patrick Dempsey was driving, who was obsessed with Grey's Anatomy. And so when I said, hey, Patrick Dempsey races in this, and she's like, oh my god. So I actually got her to watch an ELMS race or two, simply because of Patrick Dempsey. So, gets the girls into it, apparently.
If it works, it works.
It works, exactly. The ELMS race, I wish ELMS went to cooler tracks. It's a shame that they're not going to Imola, and that's a whole nother story in itself. But I'm kind of excited to see them go to Algarve for the double header. But I wish they could. I wish they didn't go to Barcelona. It's just not.
I wish. Yeah, especially if they already see. This is just purely me. I know maybe it doesn't really align with the realities of things, but the dream situation for me is to have each race only, or have each round, or each country only get one race. Because right now, ELMS has 2 in Spain.
Yeah.
Which with Aragon, and I would rather have Aragon because that's going to be a night race. That's going to be fun, and especially the teams all test there anyway. So it makes sense to finally bring a race to them. Anyway, yeah, Barcelona, that could probably get scrapped. Although it looks like we had a member of the Discord, BCN, go there, and looks like it was decent attendance for an ELMS round. But yeah, if they're already going to Aragon, they can get out of Spain, especially since they're also doing Portugal as well. That's 2 rounds in the same region.
They're doing Portugal twice because of the the whole thing with Imola, which is a shame.
Judging by the leaked 2024 calendar, but before the 24 calendar was really speculated on, I was like, well, if WEC is already going to Portimao, I really wish ELMS went to Estoril, because I want to see 2. I want basically
more tracks.
More tracks being used, more variety in the ACO's kind of play.
Yeah, because we haven't seen the ELMS go back to Red Bull Ring, which was amazing. Silverstone. There's plenty of reasons why Silverstone isn't happening anymore. But Silverstone, Red Bull Ring, Paul Ricard, we're going there. Spa, of course, Estoril. Give us more variety, give us more tracks. Want to see more tracks.
That's why I know people don't. Even I'm in the opinion of that Imola can be quite mid for car racing, because sometimes it can be very hard to pass. But if I had the option of, hey, ELMS to Imola or Monza, I would immediately take Imola, because it's a different track than what the WEC uses.
Exactly. I think even back in the day, they used to go to Hungaroring and Brno. Like, can you imagine ELMS around Brno? That's like one of my favorite circuits. That is my favorite circuit. Like, that would make me so happy.
If one can hope. Last time I checked, Bruno's not in a very good state financially,
No.
unfortunately. Although they last year they did host like regional races like Central European Zone stuff, so it still runs races, just not high profile that people care about.
Yeah, it makes me sad. So yeah, the next race for ELMS isn't until post Le Mans, which is a long time away. What did you say it was 3 months away?
It's mid-July with Paul Ricard.
Oh, it's the day before my birthday. Sick. So that'll be fun. At Paul Ricard, which actually consistently turns on good racing for European Le Mans series. Don't miss that. That'll be very, very good. 16th of July is that one. But Kris, let's leave that for the moment and let's talk about what happened yesterday in the WEC. So I missed qualifying. I missed qualifying entirely. So I've only seen headlines today about what's going on. Firstly, I've seen that the number 56 car, the Project 1 car, has once again not managed to get onto the grid for Spa-Francorchamps after crashing at Raidillon last year, because it crashed at Raidillon again this year, which is not ideal. What happened there?
I think you just got loose come off of Rouge and Radeon. That's really all it was. I mean, they got a little bit loose and the car just took over from there. I mean, you can literally see on the replay where they're going onto the runoff into the tire barrier, like the car generally wanted to lift off. You can see where the car was generally like it was trying to move up. So yeah, unfortunate accident. That was pretty much middle of GTE qualifying, where that took place. And then, like you said, we got the news after qualifying that the car was unfortunately withdrawn.
Which is a real shame because you never want to see, especially AM drivers, paying drivers, not make the grid like that. So that's a real shame for them. Now, there was quite a bit of discussion post qualifying. I saw about track limits. Why was that, Kris? Can you read me in as to why people were talking about track limits like it's not a new thing?
Right. Yeah. So when qualifying for Hypercar was very exciting because we had like Cadillac and Porsche and Ferrari. They're all battling in the mix, and Toyota came in and set the fast lap, and people were like, oh, here comes Toyota to ruin it all. And then Ferrari, just a very, very fast Sector 3 with Giovinazzi behind the wheel, just shocked the world and took it on pole. And then after everyone was all hyped up and they're doing the celebrations, all of a sudden the timing screen changed where, wait, Toyota's back on top. And in the end, they deleted that lap from the 51 because they went over the white line, which judging from the replay, because it showed a replay of the Ferrari going wide over the white lines, all four wheels off of it, into the gravel after Lacombe, the section of corners at Lacombe. And so then that when that happened, people were like, "Oh, well, rules are rules." I mean, yeah, he might have not gained an advantage because that was also one of the main points of contention. Like, well, he didn't get an advantage. Didn't get an advantage. Why did they take away that lap? Well, because rules are rules.
Them's the rules. Yeah.
Yeah, a white line is a white line. It doesn't matter if they gain advantage or not. Like they have to consistently enforce it. Because if they don't, if they let it slide, then you're opening up Pandora's box.
Yeah, if they let it slide, you get IMSA GT Le Mans at freaking Coda that one year where they're just like, we're not going to enforce track limits, and then just everyone took the piss.
Or people just they try to get more liberties or take more liberties involved with track limits, where they could point to the situation. Well, how come you let this slide? So yeah, shitty situation. I mean, I understand people wanted to see Ferrari on pole, instead of Toyota, but look at it this way: only one Toyota's up front. The rest is the other one starting way in the back.
I did see that.
I forgot to mention. Yeah, Toyota crashed. The
yeah,
crashed.
What?
Leading to another debate about tire warmers because basically it was coming off of pit road and Like it wasn't even going that fast, and it just snapped right after it came across the hill. Um, and that led to a huge debate where, like, well, maybe it's time to take a look at tire warmers again, because this is actually the second time that a incident involving the case where it might have not happened if they had tire warmers. Because I don't know if you heard about this, but in FP2 there was a crash again on Radeon where the number 21 car was on a flyer, and the 54 was coming out of the pits.
Yes, I did hear about
And
this.
there's white flags, saying, "Hey, there's a slow car coming out the pits." And basically the 21 had to go cut across the inside of the corner to avoid the car, but it still ends up being basically wasn't enough because it tagged the car with its right rear quarter panel and sent both cars to the wall. The 21 was still being rebuilt. They had a new chassis for that car during qualifying, so that car did not set a lap.
Yeah.
54, I believe, got the car fixed in time to make a lap. So
Yes.
none of those cars are withdrawn. But yeah, that's kind of the story of the weekend. Oh, also in practice, number 3 Cadillac, that's the IMSA car, that's the yellow livery. Its battery caught fire. And then
okay.
The Porsches were having, they're being start all over. So that's the story of the weekend so far, and that leads to today, which we had just had a Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland support race going on right now. I was watching it as we were discussing, and it is foggy and wet. So take that as you will.
Nice. I love a wet spa. A few notes. I'm looking at the qualifying list now. It's a bit Noah's Ark at the top, but I see that the Hertz Team Jota car, the number 38, the new 963, the new Porsche 963, the first customer hypercar, has done a better job than one of the actual Porsche cars, setting a 202.9 versus the number 5 Dan Cameron Christensen Frederick Makovecki car, 2036. So that's a pretty big scalp to get in your first qualifying session from Jota Sport. Like, hot damn, well done.
Yeah, and, being a customer team, people will say, well, they probably got, advice or, experience from the Porsche team itself. But still,
you're still going to do it.
Team, they just rolled that car off the trailer. Like, they didn't do any, like, long-term testing for that team. Like, they just, like, well, we're just going to do testing during the race. And so far, it's paying off. They're not doing that bad.
So I wonder if this is because Jota are a race team, and they've got that advantage. So, like, of course, Porsche Penske is a race team. No, don't get me wrong, but they've been a test team for the last, year and a half through that program. And a lot of the guys, I think the thing in Sebring was a lot of the guys who were working on the cars and in the pit stops were employed for the first time that weekend. So I wonder if this is a consequence of Jota being a race team with like race ready experience that's put them at that point in the qualifying.
Potentially, and from what it looks like, it's the Porsche itself. It's a decent enough car, especially when they had the advantage of all the trials and tribulations the Penske team had to go through the past couple races. So they take the lessons from that, and they were able to, like, okay, we can do that, learn from that without going through the mistakes.
Yeah. So
that's why they can get a good showing right off the bat.
And I wonder as well whether or not this is going to accelerate Porsche's rise through the field, because if they've got Jota as a customer, and then if they get Proton as a customer, and they get that car delivered and they get that racing, all of a sudden they have twice as much data than any of the other teams. So, is that going to accelerate their development cycle? Is that going to accelerate their experience? Is that going to accelerate their pace to see them at the top of the field quicker than the likes of, say, Acura or BMW or Cadillac, who are still working on delivering or gaining customers even, let alone delivering cars? They don't even have any customers at this point.
Yeah, I don't know, potentially. But there is one thing I wanted to point out from this weekend, because a lot of people, there's a lot of hype, maybe some copium involved, but I was looking, because Spa is usually seen as the warm-up for Le Mans.
Yeah.
Because they have the long straight, you're generally on the gas more. So it's a good, not a tit-for-tat preview of Le Mans, but kind of like a good setup for it. I'm looking at the top speeds that were made over the weekend, because Le Mans top speed is pretty much everything. I'm looking at Ferraris. Ferraris are about 3 miles per hour, not miles per hour, kilometers per hour faster than the next car over, which would be a Cadillac. And Cadillac is tit for tat with Toyota. If that's the if what we're seeing, and then this is from qualifying.
Hmm.
So so it's not just reading practice times. It's from qualifying itself, or throughout the entire weekend. If this is a preview of what's to come for Le Mans, the people who are saying, "Oh, Toyota are just gonna easy win for Toyota," oh, they're gonna be so wrong.
It's certainly very exciting when you look at it that way, isn't it?
Yeah, because when you Le Mans, like you're on the gas for like what half lap because you got the most on.
Pretty much, yeah.
So let's just so yeah, 318.7 kilometers per hour for the fastest Ferrari, 315.9 for Cadillac and Toyota, and then Porsche wasn't far off with a 315. And Peugeot was there as well. They just need to fix their overall pace.
What?
Yeah, reliability's fine. The pace is not there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if what we're looking at right now, we might be in for a very exciting Le Mans. But who knows? Hashtag wait and see.
Wait and see. A few other things from qualifying I just want to touch on first. United Autosports take pole again in LMP2 ahead of Team WRT and Prema Racing. So like the three like huge teams in LMP2 really showing everyone what's what. And is it like, okay, Chris, are my eyes deceiving me, or was Ahmed Al-Hati 2 seconds a lap faster than Sarabovi? Or am I just making that up? That's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, your eyes aren't deceiving. He was very fast all day. It was just insane because you saw the times roll in. It was like, wait, that can't be right. He made a fastest lap time that he went ahead and did 0.2 better. Like he was just mad, and the Astons did get a little BOP break because the first 2 rounds they were a little bit behind on BOP. They weren't that competitive, but even with the BOP break that they have, that's still mad.
Like that's 2 seconds. That's 2 seconds over Sarabovi. That's huge. Like that's almost unheard of. I kind of wanted to yell BOP, but that's not fun. So that like if that puts the Aston Martin in a good position, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the early part of the race, ahead of the Iron Dames and Proto competition. Ben Keating only in 4th. What is this? Get it together, Ben.
Yeah, that mid-session red flag really kind of messed things up for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So kind of mixed up the order a little bit, which should provide a fascinating race. I mean, Keating is always going to be that Corvette crew. I mean, they're top-notch guys. They're always going to be competitive, even with the weight balance that they had with the new BOP. I mean, Aston Martin's now up there now. Proton's up there. Iron Dames and It's going to be a fascinating race for GTE. When you're watching, definitely have your live timing up for it. That's going to be a fascinating one to keep track of.
Cool. Last few things before we give it all away. Firstly, Paul Dall'Anna announced during the week that he was retiring from motorsport immediately. After the race at Portimao, he decided that effectively he did not have the energy or the commitment to be able to run both Northwest and compete at the highest level in WC, in GTEM and race. So he decided to call it quits. Which is sad. I quite liked Paul as a driver. He was probably one of my favorite Ron's drivers for a long time, and yeah, that's really sad to see him give it all away. But like, of course, he's been involved in like literal 8-figure business deals in the last week through Northwest, so he's working hard at that. But yeah, Chris, your thoughts on Paul Dall'Anna's career as a Aston Martin GT driver?
Yeah, I mean, he's been racing ever since I really started watching. Like, it's insane how you look back. He's been there since the start of the WEC. He's been in big IMSA races. Pretty much, if you name a sports car race, he might have probably already done it. And just especially with Aston too, such a loyal guy to the brand. I believe they might have did a Ferrari or Porsche or something. there was one Rolex 24 where they didn't do an Aston, but
he was in a Ferrari. He was in a Ferrari 1 year, and then 3 weeks later, he was in an Audi at Bathurst, that same year. Because I think that was in between the Aston Martin GT3 changeover, so they didn't really have an applicable car. But yeah, He's been WEC. It's all Aston.
Yeah, so it's really when you have something that's what's the correct word for it? Something that's regularly been there since it's something you can rely on. Like, okay, this is
it's all reliable.
All reliable. Just having that not there anymore, it really just not seeing Dell'Anna on the timing sheets this weekend was kind of like wow, it's he's not here anymore.
He's gone.
Racing, but I think we had a very good trade-off because the car's not gone; it's being replaced by Heart of Racing.
Yeah,
which is definitely a very good group of guys. Heart of Racing does things with, I believe, the Seattle's Children's Hospital. They do charities and stuff for that, and then it's also owned, or at least funded by, if you in meme terms, Gaben from Steam.
Far out.
Gray Newell, which is either his son or his nephew, or anyway, younger family of Gabe races GT4s and GT4 America with Heart of Racing. They're actually racing this weekend at NOLA with GT4 America. So double programs there, WC and SRO America. But yeah, Heart of Racing, very good guys, competitors, and winners in IMSA racing. I think this is going to be a very, very well-mannered addition to the grid. Because when the announcement happened when Dell'Anna was stepping down, I thought it was ending the end of this year. It's that's cool.
Immediate.
We're gonna see them. Yeah, it's immediate. So we're seeing Heart of Racing at Le Mans, which that gets a lot of IMSA fans, especially mine. Especially me. That's going to be exciting to see, and hopefully they get a good result for that. Although there is one caveat.
They're still called Northwest, yeah, because of the way that WEC does its entry rules. They still have to be called Northwest.
Yep. Basically, the rule is once you have your name, you can't change it.
Yeah.
And my theory is that they couldn't just change it, even such as this scenario, where the reason for the team name is gone. The reason they couldn't change it because if they change it, technically, they might have to give up that Le Mans spot. They might have to move it up to the next reserve spot.
Yeah,
that's my theory on why they couldn't just rename the car, because I believe Spirit of Race is first up on the reserve. If they had a rename, Spirit of Race could be well, technically they dropped out. We should be on that list.
And as well, it kind of goes to show the whole I'm going to use this word. I don't believe this is the correct word, and don't take it with the negative connotation, but it's the kind of elitism of ACO racing is that you have to be invited to be a part of it. And that means that if you change your entry, you are no longer invited. So I remember I think it was 2015 where you had the Sard Morand LMP2 team where they made the entry and then one half of it, I think it was the Morand half, pulled all the funding, but because they'd made that entry as Sard Morand, they had to run the whole season as Sard. No, it was the Sard half that pulled the entry, because after that it was RGR Morand. So yeah, Sard just pulled all their money and funding, but they were still called Sard Morand for the whole season. So it is just one of those little things about ACO racing that it is just a little bit invitational. But no, it's good. It's good to see them get that chance, and good to see that entry continue. It is just a shame that Dell'Anna never got that Le Mans win. I think everyone who has been watching WC for a long time would have loved to see him get a win at Le Mans after the unfortunate events, which led to him crashing out at the end of the 2015 race while comfortably leading. I think everyone and his luck since would have liked that to change, but it was unfortunate. And it's sad that he's no longer gonna be racing with the WEC. But all the best to Paul Dell'Anna, and hopefully we see him behind the seat of something in the future, because I think he's a great loss to motorsport for him to not be driving anything. So yeah. Other news, Chris. We've seen now Le Mans liveries special liveries for Peugeot and for Porsche. The Peugeot livery is quite... it's kind of like the Hypnocar from a few years ago, except it was with a white base instead of a black base. I think it looks sick. Got this cool geometric like graph pattern with these interlocking colors over the top of it. It's gonna look like a vomit on wheels in the best way possible. What are your thoughts on the Peugeot to start with?
It looked like trash. I'm gonna be honest.
What? No.
Well, from the first couple screen grabs of it, like I was like, oh, it looks unique. I don't personally like. I personally want, whatever. But I mean, it's gonna be unique, which is all that matters. But then some new pictures came out, which absolutely did it justice. Like the first pictures, if you saw, where it was like a darker, like it was like a showroom sort of thing. It did not. It did not do that livery justice. There's then more pictures on Instagram where it had like a white background that showed the car without all the lighting tricks. It looks, yeah, it's a very good looking car. I'm excited to see it on the grid. It should be definitely easy to point out.
Yeah, you're not gonna miss it, are you? It's very much like the old the Hypnocar, the Aston Martin from a few years ago, which just was like splashes of color everywhere, and it was it's gonna be very, very good to look at on track. We did just see this morning for me, I think yesterday at Spa-Francorchamps, the release of the Porsche Le Mans livery, which is a series of swooping colors from the front little bonnet grille all the way over the back half of the chassis. I have mixed feelings about this one, Kris. What are your thoughts on the Porsche livery for Le Mans on the 963?
I don't care for it. I know we actually had some guy at the track in the Discord where right after the qualifying session he was walking around the paddock and they had the car, but the tarp was lifted up a little bit, so he was able to get a sneak preview. I was like, oh, he snapped a couple pictures, and it looked hype. It looked tight from the sneak preview, but then when the full thing came to roost, it was like, I think the thing was that each individual color was like a thing from their history.
Yeah.
But they would have just been better off with picking one specific one and just doing that, to be honest, because I don't particularly care for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think they tried to tribute too many things and did a mess of it. Because each of the colors that they chose don't really have the associated colors that go with it that make it look so good. So, like, for example, I'm going to chuck the image in our live chat here. So the colors are, if I can remember correctly, the orange is meant to be the Gulf Racing orange, but it's next to the pink of the Pink Pig, which is next to the green of the Psychedelic 917, which, remember, that base color was purple with the green flashes, so it's got the green there. It's got the light blue of the Martini livery, but then it's got that next to the kind of dark blue violet of the Rothmans car, and then it's got the red of the Salzburg 917, the first 917 to win Le Mans. And then in the center, it's got the yellow from, I believe it's the DHL Porsche Spider, to call back to Porsche.
ALMS.
Yeah, to ALMS, or it might be the yellow from the Sunoco livery. But it's like, trying to have the Gulf Racing orange not next to the kind of baby electric blue, it just kind of looks out of place. And I think that's the thing that I'm taking away from this livery, is that everything looks just kind of out of place. Hopefully it looks better on track, but yeah.
They probably would have just been better off by, using stuff from their GTE playbook where each individual car had like their own specific throwback. So I think that would have been much better received. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to, piss and moan too much because we're finally seeing special liveries come back at Le Mans.
This is true.
So I'm happy. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna take that win There could be improvements, but I'm gonna take that one for now.
Well, like, the thing is, like, there's 3 cars. So they could have done a tribute to 3 different eras. They could have
Right.
done, like, they could have done a 917 livery. They could have done Salzburg livery. They could have done the Rothmans Porsche livery, and they could have done the 911 GT1. Like, or, you know, it's just like they didn't have to complicate it so much. Porsche, please. Oh well. Oh well. It's still a 963, so I'm still gonna love it.
Yeah, that's all we can really hope for.
Yeah, and hope that they do well as well. Kris, I believe that's the end of the show.
Yeah, it's quite a quick show because we gotta get this thing wrapped up for Green Flag, which is about, 2.5 hours to 2 hours 45 minutes from now.
Yeah. So we've given you enough time to speedrun it, guys. We've given you enough time to speedrun this episode, so make sure you listen to it.
Yeah, definitely. Even then, hopefully you'll still find some enjoyment of this podcast. Nürburgring 24 is coming up. Me and Cookie will have to come down and sit down with a plan for that. All the track running for the Nordschleife has been done. Once an entry list has been officially revealed for the Nürburgring 24, me and Cookie will sit down and get you guys an episode for that. Especially another episode of Final Stint will be in the works too.
Yep. Kris and I are doing From the Grandstand on Monday, which will be good. Talking V8 Supercars, which is currently on now, and also whatever other sport takes a fancy. So keep an ear out for that. And we should have another episode coming shortly after the Spa-Francorchamps race, and then hopefully before IMSA, so we can talk a bit about Spa and then talk about the big lead up to Le Mans. So it's all happening. It's going to be the centenary. It's so close already. It's gosh. So soon, Kris. So soon.
I don't want to melt your brain flood, but we got Nürburgring 24, May 18th to 20th.
Yeah.
Le Mans the next month after. Then, like 2 weeks after, like that first week of July, 24 hours of Spa.
Mental.
Hopefully get your vacation time books, lad. Hope you have your vacation time booked.
Mate, it's going to be absolutely mental. Yeah, so strap in, everyone. It's going to be a wild few months. Thank you very much, Kris. Thank you for getting up absurdly early in order to get this one done.
Yeah, I was up for supercars anyway. Definitely not for WEC. But yeah, no problem at all. This was necessitated. I mean, we have a very exciting race at Spa. I would wager potentially an all-time classic coming up. It should be a very, very fun day.
Kris, don't say that. You know why? Because I'm missing this race. I'm gonna go to bed.
Oh no!
I'm in a wedding. I'm a groomsman in a wedding tomorrow, so I can't stay up and watch the race. I need to be like an hour away from my house at 9 a.m, so I can't. I can't do that to my friends. I'm sorry. Oh well. Thank you very much, Kris. Thank you everyone so much for listening. Enjoy the race today. Hopefully you managed to have a listen to this before the race happens. If not, then enjoy listening to this after the race. And we'll have a race wrap up coming very shortly. Once again, I've been Michael Zalavari. Peace out!